Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God, back with you with the next video in my series reading Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Without further ado, returning to Oliver Twist as read by Lord Naren White. The young thieves eyed their preceptor as if they were alarmed at his violence, and looked uneasily at each other, but they made no reply. "What's become of the boy?" said the Jew, seizing the Dodger tightly by the collar, threatening him with horrid imprecations. "Speak out, or I'll throttle you." Mr. Fagin looked so very much in earnest that Charlie Bates, who deemed it prudent in all cases to be on the safe side, and who conceived it by no means improbable that it might be his turn to be throttled second, dropped upon his knees and raised a loud, well-sustained, and continuous roar, something between a mad bull and a speaking trumpet. "Will you speak?" thundered the Jew, shaking the Dodger so much that his keeping in the big coat at all seemed perfectly miraculous. "Why, the traps have got him, and that's all about it," said the Dodger sullenly. "Come, let go of me, will you?" And, swinging himself at one jerk, clean out of the big coat, which he left in the Jew's hands, the Dodger snatched up the toasting fork, and made a pass at the merry old gentleman's waistcoat, which, if he had taken effect, would have let a little more merriment out than could have been easily replaced. The Jew stepped back in this emergency, with more agility than could have been anticipated in a man of his apparent decrepitude, and seizing up the pot, prepared to hurl it at his assailant's head. But Charlie Bates, at this moment, calling his attention by a perfectly terrible howl, he suddenly altered its destination, and flung it at that young gentleman. "Why, what the blazes is the wind now?" "Why, what the blazes is the wind now?" growled a deep voice. "Who pitched that air at me? It's the beer, and not the pot as hit me, or I'd have settled somebody. I might have knowed, as nobody but an infernal rich, plundering, thundering old Jew could afford to throw away any drink but water, and not that, unless he done the river company every quarter. What's it all about, Fagin?" "Damn me, if my neck handkercher ain't lined with beer. Come in, you sneaking warmint. What, are you stopping outside for, as if you was ashamed of your master? Come in." The man who growled out these words was a stoutly built fellow of about 35 in a black velveteen coat, very soiled drab breeches, lace-up half boots, and gray cotton stockings which enclosed a bulky pair of legs, with large swelling calves. The kind of legs in which such a costume always looks in an unfinished and complete state without a set of feathers to garnish them. He had a brown hat on his head, and a dirty Belcher handkerchief round his neck, with the long frayed ends which he smeared the beer from his face as he spoke. He disclosed, when he had done so, a broad, heavy countenance with a beard of 3 days' growth, and 2 scowling eyes, one of which displayed various party-colored symptoms of having been recently damaged by a blow. "Come in, d'ye hear?" growled this engaging ruffian. A white, shaggy dog with his face scratched and torn in 20 different places skulked into the room. "Why didn't you come in afore?" said the man. "You're getting too proud to own me afore company, are you? Lie down." This command was accompanied with a kick, which sent the animal to the other end of the room. He appeared well used to it, however, for he coiled himself up in a corner very quietly, without uttering a sound, and winking his very ill-looking eyes 20 times in a minute, appearing to occupy himself in taking a survey of the apartment. "What are you up to? Ill-treating the boys? You covetous, avaricious, insatiable old fence," said the man, seating himself deliberately. "I wonder they don't murder you. I would if I was told them. If I had been your prentice, I'd have done it long ago. And no, I couldn't have sold you afterwards, for you're fit for nothing but keeping as a curiosity of ugliness in a glass bottle. I suppose they don't blow glass bottles large enough." "Hush, hush, Mr. Sikes," said the Jew, trembling. "Don't speak so loud." "None of your mistering," replied the ruffian. "You always mean mischief when you come that. You know my name. Out with it. I shan't disgrace it when the time comes." "Well, well, then, Bill Sikes," said the Jew, with abject humility. "You seem out of humor, Bill." "Perhaps I am," replied Sikes. "I should think that you was rather out of sorts, too. You mean as little harm when you throw pewter pots about, as you do when you blab and—" "Are you mad?" said the Jew, catching the man by the sleeve and pointing towards the boys. Mr. Sikes contented himself with tying an imaginary knot under his left ear, jerking his head over the right shoulder, a piece of dumb show which the Jew appeared to understand perfectly. He then, in cant terms, with which his whole conversation was plentifully besprinkled, but which would be quite unintelligible if they were recorded here, demanded a glass of liquor. "And you don't poison it?" said Mr. Sikes, laying his hat upon the table. This was said in jest, but if the speaker could have seen the evil leer with which the Jew bit his pale lip as he turned round to the cupboard, he might have thought the caution not wholly unnecessary, or the wish, at all events, to improve upon the distiller's ingenuity, not very far from the old gentleman's merry heart. After swallowing 2 or 3 glasses of spirits, Mr. Sikes condescended to take some notice of the young gentleman, which gracious act led to a conversation, in which the cause and manner of Oliver's capture were circumstantially detailed, with such alterations and improvements on the truth as to the Dodger appeared most advisable under the circumstances. "I'm afraid," said the Jew, "that he may say something which will get us into trouble." "That's very likely," returned Sikes, with a malicious grin. "You're blowed upon, Fagin. And I'm afraid, you see," added the Jew, speaking as if he had not noticed interruption and regarding the other closely as he did so, "I'm afraid that, if the game was up with us, it might be up with a good many more. That it would come out rather worse for you than it would for me, my dear." The man started and turned round upon the Jew, but the old gentleman's shoulders were shrugged up to his ears, and his eyes were vacantly staring on the opposite wall. There was a long pause. Every member of the respectable coterie appeared plunged in his own reflections, not excepting the dog, who by a certain malicious licking of his lips seemed to be meditating an attack upon the legs of the first gentleman or lady he might encounter in the streets when he went out. We'll go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again.